learning Messilat Yesharim. And we are in the third chapter. Again, it's very important to explain. We have each character is broken down to four. Each character you break down to 4 parts. You remember the 4 parts?
Yeah. First is the cloud, then the brass, the
Kniya,
Nia.
and then the hefsed, like what you do not to lose it.
Okay. Cloud, brass, Nia.
So that means when you want to acquire a character, you have to have 4 parts. You have to know the overview.
The general.
You have to know what you have to do.
Specific one.
And you have to know how to motivate yourself.
Is to clean, like to
Motivate
yourself. Yeah.
Motivation. And then what to do not to lose it once you got it.
Okay. So how to stay away from that.
Maintenance. You have a car. And they tell you have to change the oil every 10,000 kilometers. The brakes you have to check. If you don't do these things, you will lose it, right? And this is the layout for every one of the characters in the book. You understand?
Yeah,
Maybe come closer a little bit. So we are right now in it's chapter 3, and it's the second part of Zehirut.
Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Arav.
Baruch haba. Tzadchem l'shalom, brachem l'shalom.
Shalom Arav. So Zehirut is we explain what is Zehirut. Can you explain?
Is to be aware of.
To be aware. You're right. That's the word. To pay attention. Mm-hmm. To be aware. To not live your life out of habit.
Not fall in the habits. Right?
Not just go after whatever your desires tell you to do, but you make choices. You think. You plan.
It's the 4 characters, right?
The 4 characters. 3. Zehirut, Zizut, Nekiyut is 4, and there's 9. There's 9 parts to the whole book. 9. There's basically 9 characters that we work on in this book. So now we are in part 2 of the Zehirut. What is part 2? Practical. Now what you have to do, not theoretical, not not the big picture, the details of what you have to do. So let's start to read. You have the book?
Yeah, it's the edition that I bought.
Great. הנה הרוצה לפקח על עצמו. First of all, the Rav Kook said that on every line in this book you can write a whole another book. So the first thing he says is הרוצה. Harotze means ratzon. It means you have to want it. That's number 1. You have to want to make the change. You have to want to grow. You have to want to. So it's very important to have this ratzon, this desire to grow. Right? Can you close the door? Would you mind? Yes, please. Okay. Thank you very much. So, basically, what the Ramchal is telling us, you want to be aware of yourself. You want to live a life of being aware. There's 2 things. There's 2 things that you have to look at, you have to think out, you have to be aware of. 1, האחת שיתבונן מהו הטוב האמיתי שיבחר בו האדם והרע האמיתי שינוס ממנו. Let's say you're a very careful person in your personality. You're careful. But if you're a careful driver, let's say. But if you don't know what the symbols mean on the road, so you're careful, but if you don't know this means a stop sign, this means go, this means, right? So even if you're a careful person, so the first thing is you have to learn what is good and what is bad. What is the good that you should be running after? What is the bad that you should be, how do you say, running away from? Right? So what I should be running after and what should I be running away from? Where do you learn that? That's Torah learning, right? And the second thing, על המעשים אשר הוא עושה לראות אם הם מכלל הטוב או מכלל הרע. You have to see, once you know what is the good and what is the bad, you have to see, are my actions, do they fit in the good and what's good? Are they doing good? Are they staying away from the bad? In other words, you have to remember, between the theoretical world and the practical world, it's two different worlds. Mm-hmm. That's why it says when it comes to having a connection to a rabbi, we spoke about this last week, Aserech Harav, when you make a rabbi, it says, Gadol shimusha milimuda. It is greater the connection you have with the rabbi. When you see him live, how he lives in the world, not just how he teaches, because it could all be...
This was the story to...
last week?
Living close to a Rav.
Right. If you live close to your Rav, you'll never do anything wrong, it says. But we're talking about learning from... Because there's a very big... A person could say, like they say in English, it's not enough to talk the talk. You have to walk the walk. So you have to also live what you speak about. Or else, it's not... it's all in here and it's not in your feet. So that's what we're saying. And the second thing is where we said and that is split to two. Again, the Ramchal is the master of everything, is very systematic and organized. So we have two things. Right? Number one, what's good and what's bad. Number two, are my actions good or are they bad? Number three, during the act, in other words, when I'm doing the act, I'm doing it, I'm thinking, okay, while I'm doing it, am I doing it the way I'm according to the Torah?
So to being focused even when you're
doing it, even when you're doing it, not just act, like we said, on habit or on automatic mode, on what we call cruise control on a person's existence. And two, right? Shelo bishat ha'maseh, sheyishkol oto b'maznei zot yediah. After I did the act, right? In the army, it's called. They have something called, every time they go out to battle, it's called tadrich yetziyah lakrav. Okay, we're going out to battle. Most likely, we're going to be attacked from the left, from the right. We have to go. We have to do this. We have to do that. And then they have something called lekach achar krav. The what did you learn from the battle? The takeaways from the battle.
okay. Sure.
It's called lekach achar krav. The learning, the lessons that you need to learn, like they say, it's human to make a mistake. It's not human to not learn from your mistakes. So we make mistakes, but learn from it. Don't do it again. First time.
That is the Hefsed part.
What?
That is the Hefsed.
That's Hefsedim? No, Hefsed he's talking about here is once you've already acquired it, the character of Zehirut, what do you do not to lose it? Here we're talking about every day that you are assessing yourself. What did I do good? What did I do bad? How do I, right? During the act, before the act, preparing. During the act, being aware. And after the act, to be saying, checking and seeing, okay, what happened? We went out to battle. Did it happen the way it planned to happen? Did we, how many soldiers did we lose? Right? Who's wounded? Right? That's called lekach achar kav, the takeaways from the battle. Okay? Mm-hmm. So what we're saying is, what does that mean during the act, after the act? It means that life is in movement all the time, right? And you can measure it. You can measure it, or right now, or the big picture. And it's very important to do both. To also do the big picture and also the details. Okay, so shelo bishat maaseh. Now we're talking about what do we do when it's not during the time of the act. I did something, I went out, I did it. At the end of the day, I did it. We did an event. Okay, what did we do good? What did we do bad? Shelo bishat maaseh shi'aleh lefanav zichron klal ma'asav. Try to go back and think about all of the actions. וישקול אותם במאזני המשקל הזה לראות מה יש בהם רע ומה ידחה אותם. So what did I do bad so I can get rid of it? ומה מן הטוב, and what can I do good that I can do it more and do it better? להתחזק בו, אם ימצא בהם מן הרע, אז יתבונן ויחקור בשכלו. You have to think and plan what, with your sechel, with your intellect, what trick could I do? For example, I go, every time I go to a wedding, I go to the big bar and I drink too much and I eat too much. I don't want to do that. What's a trick? What's something that I could do? You need tricks. You need to be smart. What else could I do that it won't happen next time? I have a good idea. I won't go next to the food bar. Right? That's hey, Baruch haba. Remind me your name, sorry. Ben. Okay? So, ואם ימצא מן הרע, איזה תחבולה עשה? אסור מן הרע, ההוא לתאר ממנו. So, the Ramchal here is teaching us a big chiddush, a very big secret. And he is going to be going wild about what a gift this secret is. Everybody's looking for the secret, the new thing, the biggest revolution. This is the biggest secret. This is the biggest revolution. What's he telling us? Number one, the first thing Ramchal is telling us that's a big revolution, is that when you are doing what's called cheshbon nefesh, when you are reviewing your day, that is like you're learning Torah. In other words, you have in you have an external world and you have an internal world, your personality. You have to learn yourself in depth the way you're learning Gemara, the way you're learning Torah, the way you're learning. It's not only is it not bittul Torah, it's Torah learning itself. The Ramchal is telling you this idea that he's going to tell us, that you have to make time to prepare, to review yourself, review your day. This is the biggest revolution in the world. And where did we learn this from? Right? You can't come and say, I have a chiddush, I came up with a new idea. You have to show that the new idea is old, that's number one. You have to show that you have basis on it, that the rabbis back it. You can't just come up and invent something. You have to show that that's why you come up with a new idea. Great. The rabbis have to agree that it's okay. Right? For example, someone comes and says, meditation is a Jewish thing. Meditation has been around for thousands of years. The rabbis never talked about meditation. Right? And there's many things that people talk about. You have to show the source for what you're talking about.
Well, there are Jewish forms of what you would use the English word meditation to describe, no? Like, how to do it.
To just sit and there's no Jewish concept of going into the nothing. It may be a good relaxation technique, that's fine, but it's not a Jewish thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not a Jewish thing to just get everything out of your mind, forget about nothing, and just disappear.
That's just, okay. So I just meant this meditation. You could say. I mean, there's
Tefillah is you're davening. You're right.
That's before saying it about the duties, kind of meditation.
But so again, Ramchal is going to explain that's the chiddush here. It's itbadadut, but he'll explain what it is. It's not the itbadadut that we're used to hearing. So where do we learn that a person has to be so aware of his actions before he does it, while he's doing it, after he does it? Where do we learn this from? We learn it from the Gemara in Eruvin. It says that Hillel and Shammai had a 2.5-year discussion. Shalom Aleichem. Hillel and Shammai had a 2.5-year philosophical discussion. Noach lo adam shenivra, right? Shelo nivra until shenivra. Would it be better that we weren't created or we were created? Of course, obviously. By the way, I was learning today. I went to see my rabbi in Rosh Chodesh. There's a special light to see your rabbi in Rosh Chodesh. You get inspiration for your whole month. So I went today to see my rabbi and learn a shir, and he was talking about the fact that, unbelievable, everything, any subject that could come up in the future, anything that could come up in the future is already discussed in the Torah, in the Gemara. There is no subject that can come up that wasn't discussed. Airplanes, they have 400 discussions in the Gemara about something called Migdal Poreach Ba'avir, a building that's flying in the air. Thousands of years ago, they had these theoretical discussions about something that you thought was like completely nonsense. What are they talking about? A building that's flying in the air. That applies to all of the laws of airplanes. Another discussion they have about what happens if an animal gives birth, but it's exactly up against another animal, and then the baby goes into the other animal and then comes out. Is it the firstborn or not? Because it never came into the world. It was all the IVF, all of these issues that have to do with, right, surrogate mothers and all these things. Everything is discussed in the Gemara. You just have to know how to, apply it. But there is no discussion that doesn't have some kind of practical implication in the future. We don't always see it, but anything that's ever going to come up is already in the Gemara. So here the rabbis were talking a very serious discussion. 2.5 years, Hillel and Shammai. Is it better that we're created or better we're not created? At the end of it, they decided, Noach lo adam shelo nivra. It would have been easier to not be created. But you are created, so don't ask questions. Why? What would be easier? Ask yourself, what can I do with what I'm created? Yes, you're put into a world that there's challenges. Yes, it's not easy. Noach, it would be much easier.
Wait, they wish they were never born?
Yes, it would be easier, it would be more comfortable. If you are looking for comfort in this world, you're in the wrong world. That's the next world. Olam hazeh, this world is challenges and difficulties, and it's dangerous. There are, how do you say, pit holes? There are traps that if you don't know how to figure this out, you will fall into the trap. And therefore, there's two things you have to do, the rabbis say. Achshav shenivra, now that you're created, yepashpesh b'masav. You have to, we'll explain what these two words mean. Pishpush. And the other rabbi says, another opinion says, yemashmesh. So what do these two words mean? Yepashpesh and yemashmesh. In other words, one rabbi says you have to do pishpush, that's you're in this world. And if you do pishpush, not only is it not good that you were created, but it's the greatest gift, the way we spoke about in the first chapter. The first chapter talked about how the soul hates this world. The soul hates this world. But then the Ramchal told us, don't worry, the soul hates this world as long as if a person's goal in life is to have pleasure, then the soul hates this world. But if the person's goal in life is to serve God, so pleasure is not the goal, pleasure is the means. You have to have pleasure in order to serve God. But as soon as that becomes the situation, that your whole goal is to have pleasure in order to serve God, the soul not only doesn't hate this world, the soul loves this world, and it's the greatest, and it's uplifted, and it lifts up the body, and it's able to use the vehicle of the body to reach its highest state and go to the next world, as we explained.
So what's the pashpesh?
So the pashpesh means to, here, Ramchal says it, pishpush. פשפוש במעשים שהוא לחקור על כלל המעשים להתבונן בו הנמצא בו אשר מעשים אשר לא יעשה. The Ramchal explains everything. So pishpush is, I want to first, right, you have to do a sifting. The pishpush is, the first sifting is between good and bad. Mazel tov. It's like someone's in the class saying psh. No, it's nobody getting excited. It's just no, thank you. Actually, why not? Yeah, here. There's a few things that people forget to do. One is to breathe, and two is to drink water. Those are two things that people forget to do. It says, "Velo shamu al Moshe mikotze ruach u'me'avoda kasha." Normal people have to drink 2 liters a day. I donate my kidneys, so I have to drink 3 liters a day. So it's not easy.
Wait,
So,
how much is that? Almost 4.
and you drink 4 a day?
Almost 4. It's 3.8.
And you drink the whole thing?
Yeah.
Each day, 1?
And you make
Wow.
up for your
So
work
it's
now?
a gallon. Yeah.
Do you ever have like a half of it left at like 10 at night?
Sometimes, yeah.
It's great. It's really, like we said, breathing people forget and drinking people forget. And it's very important to deep breaths. Okay, so pishpush means to see the overview. Pishpush, right? Pishpush masim hu lechko klal ha'masim. I'm looking at the overview of everything I'm doing. Are they good or are they going according to what God said? Al pi mitzvot asher bechukav kol asher yimatzeh me'ele yivara min ha'olam. Remember what we talked about. Remember what we talked about in the beginning. So that there's this force, what we call the Yetzer Hara. It's there. It has one mission: to keep you so busy that you don't have ever time to review. Who has time to review when you're running and you're busy and you have to make time? Who has time to stop? Right? For example, I have a store. I could work 8 hours. Ramchal saying, no. You want to be a good businessman? Here he's going to bring us the example. Oh, we spoke about that last week. A businessman, a good businessman, closes his store after 7 hours. And what does he do in that hour? He reviews what is selling, what is not selling. What do people like, what not like? What's at a trend in the marketplaces around the world? Not just, I open my store, I do my 8 hours. But if you look on the outside, you see a person stopping his work. What are you doing? You're losing money. You're closing your store after 7 hours. Leave it open. You need to make more money. So most people are busy making money. They don't have time to close their store. But if you close your store and you think you'll make more money, now that's money. Who cares about money, whether you make it or you don't? Here we're talking about your soul, your personality, your whole life's mission, your whole purpose in life is for you to develop your character and become a good person. And you have to close down your store, stop conquering new things, stop. And by the way, it says in the Gemara that a person who doesn't do chazara, who doesn't review his learning, straight out Torah learning. We always want to conquer more pages. A person that does not review what he learned is like a person who plants seeds and doesn't harvest. And when you go to Shemaim, they don't ask you how many pages did you learn. They ask you how many hours did you learn. So don't worry. Just do quality, not quantity. God works on quality, not quantity. That's why the Jewish people are only 13 million people. That's why the land of Israel is so small.
14.6 million going on to 15 million.
Great. But that's why are we so small? Why is the land of Israel so small? It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And therefore, you have to, number one, pishpush, is to see your actions, is to first of all, get rid of the bad. Take rid of the bad. First you say, okay, At the end of the day, what did I do good? What did I do bad? That's the first step. Now the cheshbon. Now the bad. What is the plan? How am I going to get rid of that bad that shouldn't happen again? Now, what's mishmush? Mishmush is afilu b'masim hatovim atzmam lirot yesh inyanim pniya lo tova or chelek ra. The good. How do I make the good better? So start with the first. What did I do good? What did I do bad? Now, how I'm going to make the good better. Our focus is the good. That's the goal is how do I make the good better? So I helped 3 people. Could I have helped them in a better way? So, right? I did some bad things. I did some good things. We're people. We're human. We do mistakes. We do good. We do bad. There's a beautiful story of the Chafetz Chaim. He says there was a woman. She was selling apples. Some really bad person came and threw her apples. Took her whole, how do you say, the whole wagon, and threw it on the floor in the middle of the marketplace. There's thousands of people walking by, and everybody's grabbing these apples. People are just walking by, apples everywhere. They're grabbing it and walking off. And she's standing there crying, my apples, my apples. One smart person walks by and says, hello, grab apples. What do you mean? But it's all throwing over and people are taking it. Right, you take. This is such an important lesson in life. When our reality changes, you have to think in a way of, okay, what can I get? What can I do now? Okay, it's not the way it was. It's not going to be the way it was. But what can I do? Right? We have this feeling like all or nothing. Oh, I can't. Oh, come on, talk Lashon Hara. I can't not talk Lashon Hara. You speak, it comes out. Yes, but grab what you can. Just, do what you can. So, we said pishpush and mishmush, and that's it. Klalo shel davar. So what is the rule? The rule is, don't leave yourself with a bad habit. Kol sheken avera b'fesha. Right? Hinene ro'eh tzorech, and I see a need, I see an importance for a person. Every word in this book, you can write a whole book on. It's not, he did not, how do you say, these are not words that are, nice ideas. This is Ruach HaKodesh. This is, every word here is weighed. Here he says you should weigh every action, every character, your personality, every day. Because the question is, how long does it take for something to become a habit? How long does it take for something to become a habit? Anybody know?
Depends by people.
What?
3 days.
3 days. Sometimes they say something is a chazaka. You do something 3 times, it's a chazaka.
Yeah, that's what I was told when I started wearing gartel. If you wear it for 3 days, you have to wear it forever.
The answer the Ramchal says,
10,000 hours. Or
how long does it take for something to become a habit, friends? So you said 3 days. The Ramchal says 1 day. Do something today without thinking about it. You'll do it tomorrow again as a habit. 1 day. That's why every single day. What he's talking about here, what we call cheshbon nefesh, what we call hitbodedut, it's now here's the important thing. The Ramchal is saying, and this doesn't have to take hours. You could do it with your thought. The Rav Kook says you should do it before you go to sleep. You review your day. You could do it a few times during the day. But our main job in this world is to act. Yes, we're there to learn. We're there to go out there. We make things happen. That's great. What the Ramchal is talking about here, explains Rav Zuckerman, takes a few minutes. To review your day, to watch the movie of your day, and see what did I do good, what did I do bad, takes a few minutes. You could do it with writing, you could do it with thinking, you could do it with singing, you could do it with walking, do whatever you want. But it has to be a serious thing every day. And you should make a time for it. You should say, I go to sleep at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. At 10 to 11, I have a place that I sit, I have a time, and I do this cheshbon nefesh, this review. What did I do good? What did I do bad? How am I going to make the good better? Okay? I woke up too late, but I davened with kavana. Right, how am I going to wake up tomorrow earlier? And how am I going to daven with more kavana? I davened with kavana for 5 minutes, how am I going to do it for 6 minutes? Right, a plan. How is it going to be better? And right, and this is not, and this is Torah learning. This is a chiddush. The Ramchal is saying, This is Torah learning. Now you have to understand, like we said, a person cannot just, a rabbi or anybody can't just come up with a chiddush and say, I have a chiddush, right? Because here he says, Hineni ro'eh, I see this chiddush that you have to make a time, a place, and review it every single day. Why not every month? Why not every week? Why not every 3 days? No, every single day. You can't come up with a chiddush if you don't have the backing of the Torah. Where is the pasuk? Where is it in the Gemara? Where is it in the Mishnah? Where is it? Right? There's many things. You have to show that this is something that is real, that has backing. He's saying an incredible chiddush. For example, someone came and said in the name of the Chabad Rebbe, think good will be good. That's the biggest revelation that anybody could ever say. We never heard that. Think good and it will be good. That solves all the problems in the world. But why don't we? It's not true. Why? Because we don't have any sources that show that that's the case. You could think as good as you want till tomorrow, and it won't be good. Maybe you'll feel good because you'll think good, but you're not going to make something good happen because actually it's the opposite. They actually say for especially army generals, army commanders, they actually have to think bad, prepare for the worst, and be happy for the outcome that happens. Because if you're not prepared for the worst, you'll fall apart if you have a major challenge. And you have to prepare for the worst. So think bad, and it will be good. Prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. Right? And then no matter what happens, you'll be satisfied. Because it's usually not as bad as you planned it. And if it did, you were ready for it. And again, we're not talking about the person to be like walking around thinking the whole world's going to blow up, and we're talking about preparing, having the way to solve anger. Later on, we'll talk about that in the 11th chapter. But the solution to anger is having a backup plan. You have to have a backup plan. If this doesn't work, so I'll do it that way. Always try to have a backup plan for everything, and then you'll never be angry. So the Ramchal is bringing this incredible chiddush. So bring me the sources. Here are the sources. V'chachamim zichronam livracha. Our rabbis, horunu. Where is your pasuk from the Torah that proves what you just said? Horunu befirush tzorach cheshbon hazeh. Where did we learn it from? The book, the Parshat Bamidbar, where it says, Al ken yomru hamoshlim bo cheshbon. I don't know if you guys know that it says when you daven Shmoneh Esrei, when you finish every day when you daven Shmoneh Esrei, there's a pasuk that you should say your name. There's a pasuk, either where your name's in a pasuk, or the first letter of your name and the last letter of your name. It says when you go to Shemayim, they ask you what's your name, and if you don't say that pasuk during that prayer, you won't remember your name. And it's a big pain to not remember your name. What is my pasuk? Al ken yomru hamoshlim bo cheshbon. Starts with ayin, ends with a nun. And I have an app that helps you find your pasuk. So anybody who wants to find their pasuk, it's really cool.
It's the first and last letter of your name?
Yeah, either the first or last letter of your name, or if your name is in a pasuk, you can use the full name. If your name is David, so you can say Mizmola David Hashem Roi Lo Yechsar. You can use that pasuk.
Okay, but there's a lot of pasuk.
And what does that mean? Connecting to your pasuk, remembering your name. Remembering your name means that you were honest. You were true to your calling in life. You knew who you were.
Wait, so if you have numerous pasukim that allude to your name,
we'll talk about that after.
Okay.
You can choose. I have psukim when I'm in Chutz La'aretz. When I'm in Chutz La'aretz, my pasuk is Al Na'arot Bavel Sham Yashavnu Gam Bachinu B'Zochenu Tzion. It starts with an ayin, ends with a nun. So I'm out of Israel. I use that pasuk because it reminds me that I shouldn't be here. My place is in Israel, right? But I'm in Israel. It's the cheshbon nefesh, and this is the most important. I love doing this. Some people hate doing cheshbon nefesh, but some people enjoy it, and maybe you learn to love it. Right? Some people don't want to see, oh, I did bad, I did this, right? I could have done better. People just want to just keep going. That's already past. Live the moment, or plan for the future. Like it's going to be good. No, you need to review. So, but where do we learn it from? What is this pasuk? Al ken yomru hamoshlim bo cheshbon. This is amazing. And the Ramchal is going to bring many different examples for this idea. The Jewish people are coming to Israel. There's only one problem. Ammon is right at the gate of Israel. And there was because Lot and from his daughter were from Ammon, there was a promise that we would not fight them. So there is Ammon, and we can't go in because we're not allowed to fight them. So how are we going to get to Israel? Cheshbon, the king of Cheshbon, they went and had a war with Ammon, and they got rid of them. And then when we came, we had to fight with Cheshbon. So Al Ken Yamo Mushlim, the rulers, they said, Bo Cheshbon. People used to say, let's go to Cheshbon. In other words, it was so clear that area was cleared out from Ammon. It was already called Cheshbon. So it comes to teach you, look at the big picture. The same way this thing, you don't see God's moving things around. Here it says about Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, you can't see my face. You can't see my face, but you can see in hindsight, they say in English. You could look back and you can say, oh, now I understand why this happened. But while things are happening, you can't see it. The only way to see things how God is running the world is when you take a step back and you look at the big picture. And when you're aware that there is a big picture, you're in a state of cheshbon nefesh. In other words, what is the difference between a child and a grown-up? A child wants one thing: instant gratification. It's the only thing he cares about. Right now, what's the reward? How could I have pleasure now? How can I enjoy it? But as a grown-up, as a person that's going to have free choice, right? Freedom of choice is a person that looks at the big picture. My actions, what are they going to lead to? Not just what's right now. And when we see how God is moving the puzzle, pieces of the puzzle, I want to see in my life, where did God move my puzzle? In the big picture. In my actions, what happened? What did I do? Take a step back. Look at yourself outside of yourself. Like a watchdog of yourself. Like watch the movie of yourself. Be a reviewer of yourself from the outside. Okay, I let myself go. I had a whole day. Now, what did I do? Watch the movie. It's exciting. You're the star of the show. You did good. You did bad. The bad, what are you going to do not to do it again? The good, what are you going to make it better? It's very exciting. You don't need movies. This is the most exciting movie. The world, the emotions you felt, the experiences, the interactions you had with people. How could I make them better? How could I change it? How could it, right? This is very exciting. So, and I'll tell you something that you'll find very, very shocking. This is my rabbi said it, and it's scary. 99% of people in the world don't change because they don't do cheshbon nefesh. People do the same act. Einstein said, what is the definition of insanity? The definition
doing the same thing over
is
and over again
you do the same act and you don't and you expect a different outcome. If you're running full force into a wall, why do you think you're not going to smash your head? What makes you think that? Right? So most people are like the little bunny that runs to the wall, to the wall, to the wall, to the wall. They keep hitting their head like the wall. Maybe do it differently. That would be too sophisticated. And I'm going to tell you something really shocking. This week's Parshat Chukat, there's the story of Moshe Rabbeinu who got angry. Reb Tzvi Yehuda used to teach this, and he would say, in the name of the Rambam, if the Rambam didn't say this, we wouldn't dare to say what I'm going to tell you now. The Rambam said, Moshe Rabbeinu himself failed and did not do the cheshbon nefesh. When Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock, when you get when your car and your motor is in the red line, it didn't get there today. It moved up slowly. It was building and building and building, and he didn't do enough of the work of dismantling, of at the end of the day getting rid of it. And then when there's a burst out, it's just it was building, and the Rabbi Tzvi used to say this in the name of the Rambam. He said, don't think the Rambam wasn't a big fan of Moshe Rabbeinu, because there's a machloket whether the Mashiach is going to be greater than the Rambam or less than the Mashiach is going to be greater than Moshe Rabbeinu or less than Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a machloket. And the Rambam says that Mashiach will be less than Moshe Rabbeinu. There's different rabbis. He says that Mashiach will be less than Moshe Rabbeinu. So we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest of prophets of all, he messed up on this thing of cheshbon nefesh, of reviewing at the end of the day. And Moshe Rabbeinu, you could understand that he had so much going on. There's so much happening. You have to. That's what he's saying. You have to make a time. You have to make a place. You have to take it very seriously. It's like the most important part of your day is the cheshbon nefesh. It doesn't have to take forever. It could take 2 minutes. Just review your day. It's you go and you watch the movie of your day. I do it every single day. I have a book and I write it down. Good, bad, what I did. It helps because the writing, I don't need to write a lot. I just go through my day and it helps me just to focus, and I don't have to write every detail. I'm thinking while I'm writing. So I write a little bit, but at least I can go over the day. It's the greatest gift in the world. And this is the difference between the 99% of people that don't change and the 1% of people that change. Because they review and they do cheshbon nefesh. So he says, where do we learn this chiddush? Right? He starts saying this advice is so big, nobody could see it unless because most of us are locked into our prison of our selfishness. And we don't see this truth. And the Yetzer Hara blinds our eyes and we walk in the dark and we don't see it. And that's what it says in the Gemara Baba Metzia. Teshet choshech hilayla. This world is a dark world. Zehirut in Hebrew means Zohar is to light, right? Zohar means light. This we're telling you. Yes, you're in a dark world. Teshet choshech hilayla. God put us in the world that's dark, but He gave us a flashlight. The Messilat Yesharim, the Ramchal taught us this. Turn on the flashlight. What's the flashlight? Your sechel, your ability to review your day and to say what I do, what I good, bad. And he says you can't imagine. And he says we're in this world and there's 2 mistakes that happens in this world. What does that mean? This world's dark. It means there's 2 mistakes that could happen. One is that I don't see what's in front of me, so I could fall. But 2, which is even more dangerous, is I see a person and I think it's a tree. In other words, there's one thing that, okay, it's a dark world and I just go and I don't turn on the light. I don't turn on the light, the sechel. I don't turn on what we call the third eye. Right, you have those lights you put on your head and you turn it on? You have to turn on that light, which is just your intellect. You're thinking not just instant gratification, seeing the big picture and thinking long term and reviewing. And so one mistake is I just make mistakes. That's not so bad. The worst mistake is I make mistakes, but I'm sure that I make an ideology out of it.
Okay, in the first case,
right? There's like the first case, the person that says, "I have a problem. I want to marry a man, but I know I have a problem. I make a mistake because I have a desire for men. I can't understand this, but there are people. This is a challenge." Other people say, it's a mitzvah for a man to marry a man. We have to parade in the streets and we have to tell everybody a man should be marrying a man. That's the most wonderful thing in the world. That's the greatest thing. So it's the ideology behind the mistake in this world. And this is what he says, Ken chomriyut v'gashmiyut olam hazeh. I love this analogy. This is the way it is. The physical things of this world. And physical things, we mean, it's not only food and physical desires, it's also spiritual type of desires, which we call like lust and respect, and there's all these other things he'll talk about in the 11th chapter. But the materialism of this world creates 2 mistakes. Like we said, one, it helps you not be able to see. The darkness is the materialism. Again, materialism is not bad, like we said. As long as you understand that you're not in this world to have pleasure, but you need pleasure to serve God. It's not the goal. It's the means. It's like this. It's this small. Again, it's like the chametz. It's like what makes bread into chametz. It's both flour and wheat, but the extra 18 minutes. It's over 18 minutes and it rises. That like.
What do you mean by materialism? Like a materialist analysis of
Materialism.
Of a reality and history through dialectics, or you mean something else?
Materialism is food, for example.
Oh,
like
being vague
it's
and-
like the Gemara says. Why do we bench after we eat?
Such an idea.
Because it says in the Zohar, before you eat, you have two hearts.
Physicality.
Before you eat, you have two hearts. Right? You have your idealism, you want to change the world, and you have you need to. So every time you eat, says the Gemara, there's a battle between you and the food. Are you going to eat the food, or is the food going to eat you? If you ate the food and now you have strength to go and learn Torah, then you ate the food. But if you ate the food and now you can't move and you're knocked out, so the food ate you. So what do? Every single time you eat. So how do you combat that challenge? The answer is benching. Every time you bench, you're suddenly talking about Jerusalem. V'alakol al-out and Yeshua conquering the land, and the fighters of Beitar that were buried, and all these things, all these idealistic things, and all these like visions of Uvanei Yerushalayim. God should build Jerusalem, and the whole world should come to. Wow! Suddenly you okay? So I ate, and it helped me not get swallowed by the food. Now I'm back to being idealistic. I'm back to caring about the world, not just about my own stomach, right? Look what he says here. Vehine. Listen to this incredible thing. He said, where are we? I thought it was here. Yeah, here. Like the darkness, the physical and materialism of this world, are darkness, darkness of the night, to the eye of the intellect. So like we said, you have a room, and you have surveillance. Right? Your surveillance is your sechel. Your sechel is watching. Make sure that when you look at a woman, you're seeing a soul. That you're not looking at a piece of meat. Or when whatever you're doing, you have these how do you say, these cameras. Materialism of this world create darkness of the night to the eye of the intellect. So now you take the materialism, you see a woman walking not dressed. So suddenly the materialism blocks your intellect. All you're seeing is the physical side. That's why when we tell women that you should dress in a certain way, it's not their fault that we see them and we look at this way. She could be fully dressed and we'll look at her the same way, but it makes it harder. The materialism is so blinding. I wish that women would understand this, that when we tell a woman that or a man, but dressing with modestly, it's not so they want to be seen. She can't be seen because I'm blinded by the body part, the physical, materialistic part, and I'm not able to see the soul. So if you want to be seen, the more you cover, the more actually you are seen of the soul and the person that you are, and not just the materialism. But it's a very powerful, so not just women or food or all these physical desires, it's darkness of the night to the eye of the intellect. Suddenly you're not thinking with your head. You're not thinking with your intellect, with what's your soul. You're thinking like animalistically, and therefore that's the first mistake. And the second mistake is, like we said, people think that the good is bad and the bad is good, and that's a big problem. So what do? So then he brings here, the Ramchal brings an example from a game. A game. How could you bring an example from a game? Who plays games? And he says, this is an example that the rabbis taught us to do the cheshbon nefesh. Is an example that we learn from a game. What's the game? Legan hamevucha. There's a in England, it's a very common type of was a game for hanatua litzchok hayaduat sarim. It was a game for ministers, for leaders, for government officials. Used to play this game. What's the game? The game was to go into a maze, or they used to call them labyrinth gardens, right? So you have these mazes, and they were full of trees. Everything looks the same. All the walls are the same height. Everything is exactly the same, right? So
you know what you do? You take your wall onto the wall and just follow it. You just keep following onto the right side. Just keep going. That's how you
You could try that, but then you'll end up banging your head every time on the wall. So most people start here. This is what I'm saying.
Like a cornemuse.
Most people start here and they just walk. They smack their head against the wall and they go back and then they turn around and they go back and they go back and they go back and they just that's people live there their whole life.
You follow the wall. That's what I'm saying. You don't hit your head. You
Well,
follow.
yeah. So then you pick another path, and then it's also.
Yeah, but I'm saying let's say you follow the wall. It takes you
follow
here.
from the beginning.
It takes you here and it takes you back to here. So let's say you follow the wall. It will take you back here. Let's hear what the Ramchal is saying first of all. First of all, why is this a game for ministers? Because ministers, leaders, government officials, they have to see the big picture. They have to create in their mind the map of they have to look at the whole picture. They have to, in their mind, you're walking in this maze. But as you're walking, you have to create a map in your mind. You have to understand, wait, I went here, I came here, it didn't go. Maybe I'll go this way. Maybe I'll try that way. Maybe I'll go back out here and I'll start through this way. Maybe I'll start this path. Wait, I was there, I started here, started here, it didn't work, I started there. Leaders are people that look at the big picture, that learn from their mistakes, that try to figure out a map, that try to figure out a way of, they all look the same. So this world is very confusing. You don't know, right? Is this good? Is this bad? Is it? So you have the Torah, the number one. And number two, you have to review. The review is you will not know the way you're going unless you use your sechel. Your sechel is like the control, how do you say, the what's it called, the place where the airplanes that stands on top?
Control tower.
The control tower. That's your sechel. Your sechel is the control tower, is up here. And you have to, while you're doing your actions, if you're reviewing it, you create this big picture. From going here, it didn't work, went there, it didn't work, you create a map. You understand, okay, this is my personality. In these types of situations, this is how I act. This is what am I going to do differently? How am I going to change that? Like we said, to be aware and to give time for this, that's the secret. That's the point, that you need to see the big picture, the small picture. Where am I in my life on the big picture? Am I happy with what I'm doing? Am I going in the right direction? This, like, nobody has time, because, like they say in business, you should work on things that are not urgent. Most people are just working on the urgent things. Everybody is just taken care of. There's so many things that we call in Hebrew putting out fires. There'll always be things to put out fires. It's like that great story of it's a great story of the Chinese story of the stones. If you have, let's say you have big stones, smaller stones, and sand. If you put the smaller stones in, that's it. There's no room for anything else. But if you first put the big stones, and then the smaller stones, and then the smaller stones, and then the sand, then there's room for everything. So, you understand? So what they say is, it means you take the important things.